So with 2019 winding down, I thought I would go ahead and give you my college basketball school of the decade. This is the program that had the best run from 2010 to 2019. And there's going to be some surprising names that were left off the list. So here are my 6 through 10 schools that didn't even make the top 5. And you're going to be surprised. Teams like the reigning champion Virginia Cavaliers, teams like Louisville, Gonzaga, even the Michigan State Spartans. But here's a real big surprise as far as a team that didn't even crack that top 5. How about UConn? So stick around on this journey because I'm going to break down my top 5 schools, and at the end, I'm going to let you know who the best school, the best program for the 2010 decade was. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Journey of a Ballaholic, the best talk show for basketball addicts. I'm your host, General Hannibal X. Now, this journey, we're going to be discussing college basketball's best school for the entire decade. Now, that decade covers 2010 to 2019. And as we know, I already gave you the 5 teams that didn't make the top 5 list, and the most controversial one has to be the UConn Huskies, who are one of just 3 schools that actually won multiple championships in the decade. Only 7 teams won a title. UConn won 2. The reason I left them off my top 5 list is because they only made the tournament 4 years. That means majority of the years, majority of the decade, they weren't even in the tournament. So I value consistency, right? Winning matters. So don't get it twisted. Winning matters. And winning the March Madness, winning the tournament is the ultimate accomplishment. They did that twice. But the team that I put in right above them is the Kansas Jayhawks. Now, saying that I know is going to make it even more controversial because Kansas is the only team in my top 5 that does not have a championship during the decade. But they do have the highest winning percentage of all the D1 schools during the season at 82%. They are one of only 3 schools to be able to go to the tournament every single year during the decade. That's 10 appearances. And only one of 2 schools, them and Gonzaga, to be able to win at least one tourney game every single season. That's consistency. You gotta give Bill Self some credit. That's consistency. When you look at the Kansas Jayhawks, they got 2 Final Four appearances, right? They also are at 5th best in tourney winning percentage at 70.6%. They have the 3rd most tourney wins, tied with the team that comes in at number 4 with 24 tourney wins, and that's the UNC Tar Heels. Listen, Roy Williams, since coming to North Carolina, has totally resurrected that program from what it was before he got there, when Matt Doherty and all the other guys were trying to pick up the piece that Dean Smith left behind. You got to give Roy Williams credit. But if we're only looking at from 2010 to 2019, North Carolina, to me, though they are top 5, they don't crack that top 3. One of the reasons is because they only have 1 championship. And that's not a slight at them either, because like I said, there's only 7 teams to even win 1 championship. They also were able to get to the Final Four multiple times, which not a lot of teams did that. They're one of 11 teams to get to multiple Final Fours. We know they went to the national championship game on 2 different occasions. They were 1-1 in the championship game. One of the things that you have to give North Carolina a lot of credit for, let's think about this. 9 NCAA tournament appearances. So that 1 year of making the NIT does hurt them just a little bit. But at the end of the day, when you got a championship and you're able to have the success that they had and winning at a high percentage, where North Carolina is one of the top 5 winning percentages in tournament during the decade, top 3 in wins, I had to put them in number 4. But my top 3 schools, my number 1, number 2, and number 3 schools, they shouldn't be a surprise. These teams have sustained dominance. These teams have multiple success when it comes to making deep runs into the tournament. So coming in at number 3 are the Villanova Wildcats. Now, Villanova, to me, when you are able to do what they did, which is opposite of what UConn did, Villanova is one of the 3 schools that won multiple championships throughout the entire decade, right? But they also were in the tournament battling Majority of the years, 9 out of 10 years, they were in the tournament. You got to give them credit. 2 Final Four appearances, 2 national championships. They have over a 70% winning percentage in the tournament. 70%, a 17-7 record. So I had to put them slightly ahead of North Carolina because they got that second championship. And let's not forget, one of those championships was against North Carolina in that head-to-head matchup. So that's my number 3 squad, which leaves the 2 most successful programs during the decade. These are the 2 juggernauts, the 2 schools that have battled year after year after year when it comes to acquiring the ultimate talent. It takes talent to win, but you need more than just talent, and both these schools have Hall of Fame coaches. The 2 schools that are left at the top should be no surprise. It's Duke and Kentucky. But which team had the better run? This right here was not an easy way to break it down. You had to dig real deep through the numbers to really cipher who was the better squad throughout the entire decade. To begin the decade of 2010, Duke won a championship. But you got to remember, in 2012, Kentucky had probably the best team of the entire decade. The Anthony Davis-led Wildcats that went 38-2. So this wasn't an easy decision. However, coming in at number 2, I had to put Kentucky Wildcats. One of the reasons why I put them at number 2 over Villanova at number 3, even though Villanova has 2 championships, was the fact that both those teams went to 9 tournament appearances, so they missed a year once. But Kentucky's winning percentage was just off the chain. They're number 1 in tourney wins with 31 wins. Number 1. Kentucky, when you think about their winning percentage, 79.5% in the tournament. They have the most Final Fours in the tournament with 4. They only won 1 championship. They did make the tournament on make the championship game on multiple occasions, so you got to give them credit for that. But also keep in mind, being able to acquire talent is one thing, but it's tough when you're doing it when the turnover is so high. You have to credit John Calipari with being able to coach a talented team one year, turn around and have to coach another talented team the next year, turn around with another recruit class, have to coach another talented team the following season. So to be able to have that type of success, you got to tip your hat to Calipari. But the reason I put Coach K and the Duke Blue Devils number 1, which you really shouldn't be too much of a surprise. Listen, the numbers speak for themselves. Take the bias out of it. 2 national championships, which is once again tied for the most of the decade. Of all the teams that won 2, which would be UConn and Villanova, Duke is the only one that went to the tournament every single year. Mind you, Duke was only 1 of 3 schools to make it to the tournament every single season. They made it to the Elite 8 year after year after year. They have one of the top 3 winning percentages in the tournament and have number 2. They come in number 2 with the most tourney wins at 26. So let's also keep in mind this. Duke not only was winning during the tournament, Duke had sustained success even during the season. Every year they won 25 plus games. Every year. Every single season, they were nationally ranked in the top 5 every single year. This is a squad that, when you want to talk about sustained excellence, Coach K sits at the top of the throne as far as the best coach in today's game, and he rivals that of a John Wooden during his era. And John Wooden had Kareem and Bill Walton. He had some of the greatest players the game has ever seen. Coach K did it a little different. He did it the way that John Calipari has been doing it, where he's picked up this one and done system, and now not only did he win in 2010 with a veteran squad, 2015 he showed that he could be only the second coach to lead a one and done led team to a championship. That was the Jaleel Okafor, the Tyus Jones, Justice Winslow, the Quinn Cook. That was that squad. So once again, I think Kentucky's 2012 team was probably the most talented team, which was led by Anthony Davis, who was probably the best player of the entire decade. But the talent that Coach K had, I mean, some of those names, man, the Zion Williamsons, right? The Brandon Ingrams, the Jason Tatums, the Jaleel Okafers. Like, it was some elite talent that came through Durham. So I know there's some controversy here, and I can't wait to see what you all think about in the comment section. Who do you rank as the best school, college basketball-wise, for the entire decade, 2010? Now, I picked Duke, and this would be the second over the last 3 decades that Coach K and Duke has been the team of the decade. I think they were the best team in the 90s. The 2000s, even though they won a championship in 2001, that wasn't their decade, right? I think the 90s and the 2010s have to go to Coach K and the Duke Blue Devils. What do you think? Who's the team of this decade, 2010? Go down to the comment section below and let me know. As always, I appreciate you for taking a look at this video. Please consider subscribing to the channel, hit that like button, and tap that notification bell so that you can stay updated with the journey of a Ballaholic.